Hey everybody, today we're going to be looking at the SEAD planning guide. You can find a download link in the description. I advise you to go download that and follow along while we go through this. What this guide is going to cover is the various munitions that you would use for a SEAD or a dead strike. This is primarily going to be the ADM-141 TALD, which is a RF decoy system, but we're also going to look at some of the anti-radiation missiles that you would use in conjunction with it to successfully destroy or suppress an enemy air defense system. The ADM-141 Tactical Air Launch Decoy, or TALD, is a RF decoy intended to replicate the RF signature of either an aircraft or a weapon that is coming into a target area. Its primary purpose is to cause enemy air defenses to turn on their radars and emit so they can be targeted for SEAD strikes, or to divert their attention while a strike comes in from a different azimuth. The TALD can be installed on the FA-18 Hornet in multiple different configurations with up to 12 TALDs per aircraft. This allows a level of flexibility for the aircraft to carry different levels of TALDs, but also different munitions as well, such as HARMs, but you can also install any number of guided missiles. The F-14 can also carry TALDs, however, it can only carry up to 4, and they will take up the Phoenix stations underneath the aircraft. Once released from the aircraft, the TALD will follow a pre-programmed flight profile depicted here. The first phase is a slowdown phase where the missile will maintain a relatively level flight while slowing down to a true airspeed of around 290 knots. However, it can vary up to 300 knots. The second phase consists of a descent, diving down at around 3,000 feet per minute, maintaining that true airspeed of about 290 knots. This is the longest portion of the flyout for the TALD. The third phase is what I've termed the operational zone. This is a point where the TALD will level off at around 3,300 feet and will try and maintain that altitude until it reaches a true airspeed of about 190 knots. I've termed this the operational zone because this is the time where the TALD is presenting the best target to the air defenses. It is a benign target flying straight and level. This is where the air defenses are going to have their best opportunity to engage it. Therefore, I have made this the zone that you want to try and present to the target at the same time you want to be engaging it with other munitions. Once the TALD reaches a true airspeed of about 190 knots, it'll begin the final descent where it will finally impact the ground. While the TALD can be engaged at any point in this flight profile, I've put most of the focus on timings and ranges for the operational zone, as that provides the best and easiest way to plan for employment of the TALD. The TALD flight table displays the time and range of the operational zone based on the launch altitude that the TALD was launched from at about 0.8 Mach. So for 30,000 feet, the operational zone is from 51 to 56 nautical miles from the launch point, and the time to reach the 51 nautical miles is about 10 minutes and 7 seconds. The time to reach 56 nautical miles is about 11 minutes and 22 seconds. In addition to the TALD flyout table, there's also an anti-radiation missile flight table. This represents the maximum range and time of flight for the various anti-radiation missiles in DCS based on a given launch altitude and a launch speed of about 0.8 Mach. So this would be used in conjunction with the TALD table to plan for mission strikes on air defense systems. Additionally, there are a set of tables for anti-radiation missile use at the historical doctrine that DCS has used for several years, which is for every 1,000 feet of altitude when you launch, you get 1 nautical mile of range. So this is a set of tables from 5,000 feet to 40,000 feet that will provide the time of flight and maximum range for all of the anti-radiation missiles. The final table is the shooter separation table. This gives the distance that an anti-radiation missile launching aircraft would have to be behind the TALD launching aircraft to achieve the correct timing for the two missiles. This is meant primarily for targets that you do not have a designated time on target for, that it's an ad hoc target that comes up you're trying to get rid of. This will allow you to more easily on the fly coordinate your flights to conduct a TALD supported engagement. All right, so let's go ahead and put some of this into practice. So for this operation, we have a SA-10 site located at Basel al-Assad Airfield. We are going to try and conduct a strike on that to disable the radars of the system specifically the clamshell, to allow for follow-on strikes against the airfield. So we see that we have two aircraft. We have a F-18 that is carrying TALDs, 6 in total. This is going to be the aircraft that's going to grab the attention of the flap lid and keep it away from the harms from this second F-18, which has 4 harms. We have them targeting Baz al-Assad, so very similar to the standoff weapon guide. We've got the ranges for both of those missiles based on the tables. For the harm, we know that is a hard 59 nautical mile range that we have for a aircraft flying at 30,000 feet like we do, so we can go ahead and add that ring that we're going to use for him. However, for the TALD, it's a little bit more of a calculation that we have to do to get that range. So this aircraft is operating at 25,000 feet. That gives him a maximum range of around 47 nautical miles for that operational zone. Now, where you put that operational zone does matter, because if you put it too close to the SAM is not going to be able to engage it in that zone. It's going to try and engage it when it's still descending down from the slowdown period. And if you put it too far out, it may not see it because of the elevation of the radar. So what I do, and you may do something different, this is up to you how you want to do this, is I put the end of the operational zone at about 1/3 of the maximum engagement range for the system. So for the SA-10, we have a maximum engagement range of about 65 nautical miles. So if we take that and multiply it by 0.3, we get about 20 nautical miles. Add that onto the end of the 47 nautical miles of the TALD, and we get a 67 nautical mile launch range for the TALD. All right, so we're going to take our aircraft and add a waypoint 1 that is going to be the launch position for these systems. So for the harm, we're going to put that at 59 nautical miles, and for the TALD, we are going to put that at 67 nautical miles. Now, you notice the separation between these aircraft. It is over 45 nautical miles. The TALD flight time is so long that if you just want to line your aircraft up, there is going to be a significant separation between them. So in addition to the range, you want to also ensure that you are launching these missiles at the correct time so that they are all getting into the same target area at around the same time. Because if you shoot the harms too late, the SAM system is going to shoot down all the TALDs, and then it's going to shoot down the harms, whereas if you send the harms in too early, they're going to get shot before the TALDs get within range of the systems. So you want a relatively close time on target. So based on the timings, for the TALD, we know that for 25,000 feet, the time to the furthest end of the operational zone is about 9 minutes and 39 seconds. That gives us a launch time of 8 hours, 20 minutes, and 21 seconds to get a 8:30 time on target. And for the harms, that's easy. It's about 3 minutes, so you put it at 8:27. Jumping in the cockpit, we're going to show you how to use the TALDs. That is an extremely easy weapon to use. There is no range requirement. There is no targeting requirement. All you're going to do is point the aircraft in a direction and hit the pickle button, and the TALD will depart the aircraft and fly in that direction on its unpowered profile. So we are approaching the drop point now, and once we have reached that, we are just going to start pickling off TALDs. You do need to try and give at least a little bit of separation between them, so you can do this by adjusting your azimuth a degree or two between launches, also adjusting the time. And the reason you want to do that is you want to get a nice spread of the TALDs so that one missile can't take out multiple TALDs in one explosion. Looking on the F-10 map, we have our TALD package that is coming in. You can see a nice little package of them. Behind them, we have the harms that have already been launched. They are coming in much faster than the TALD, so they are going to pass them both in altitude and in speed. We see the SA-10 is now firing on the TALDs. You can see that it's putting out 2 missiles per TALD. That is a shoot-look doctrine. That is the standard for the SA-10 against a missile type target. So for this instance, because we shot 6 TALDs, it is going to put out 12 missiles. So you can actually just saturate an air defense with enough TALDs that it's just going to expend its entire inventory of missiles. That is also a fully valid tactic to use with these. Here you can see the significant difference between the altitudes of the TALDs and the harms. What this means is that for systems that have a pretty narrow field of view, like the fan song, they're not even going to be able to see the harms as they target the TALDs. As the harms come in, we can see that the SA-10 is still trying to target the TALDs and is not even looking at the harms yet. This is the reason you want these harms to be on a very tight time on target with the TALDs, because what you're ultimately trying to do is put the harms in on the target before it can react, and even if it can react, it's going to be very difficult for the missiles to actually intercept the harms. And as we see the harms coming in for the final portion of the flight, the SA-10 may or may not be trying to engage the missiles, but even if it is, it's not hitting them as the harms close in on the clamshell. Now, ideally in this scenario, we would be attacking the flap lid. However, that appears to be bugged right now, so we go after the clamshell instead. So the next scenario we're going to show is a attack where you have two different flight packages coming in from two different directions. So the flight of F-18s are going to drop TALDs to decoy the SAM system to look at them, rather than the B-52 that will be dropping cruise missiles at the airfield. The reason you'd organize a strike like this is because radars have a limited field of view in which they can actually track targets. What's shown on the screen right now is not representative of what the SA-10 can actually see, but it's just a demonstration of the limit of that field of view. So as it's tracking the F-18s and then the TALDs as they come in, it is not looking in the same direction as the cruise missiles that are going to come in and is not going to be able to engage them. Here you can see that illustrated as the flaplet of the SA-10 that we're trying to engage is having to traverse back and forth between the two packages. You can see that it was initially tracking the TALD package, but then it moves left to try and track the cruise missiles, and it's having to go back and forth. So during this time, it is losing valuable time in which it could be forming a track on these different targets, and it's not conducting an engagement right now, and eventually it's going to shift back to just target the TALDs and leave the cruise missiles untracked as they come into the target area. So one difference in this scenario compared to the other one you can see is that the TALDs are a little bit more spaced out. This time we had 4 aircraft dropping 2 TALDs each, whereas before we had 1 aircraft dropping all the TALDs. The reasoning for this is because the cruise missiles are much slower than the harms were. You need to keep the SA-10 engaged on the TALDs for longer so that the cruise missiles can cover the distance and get in close to the target before the SA-10 completely destroys all of the TALDs. Again, we'll see that the SA-10 begins to engage the TALDs as they come into its range. It's going to be launching 2 missiles at each TALD again, just as it did before. However, it's not going to be launching as many missiles at once because the TALDs are continuously coming into its engagement range, so it can't engage all of them simultaneously. As the cruise missiles continue to draw closer to the target, we see that the SA-10 is still engaging the TALDs. It is unable to traverse its target engagement radar south to lock onto the cruise missiles and engage them, so they are able to approach the target with impunity, basically. And we see more missiles coming out of the SA-10, and as those TALDs continue to come into the target area, it's going to continue to target them. We see as the cruise missiles approach the target, the SA-10 is not even attempting to engage them. It continues to fire missiles down at the TALDs, even though they are significantly high up now. They are being tracked by the target acquisition radars. Those continue to detect them and track them. However, the target engagement radar is not able to actually target them because it's focused on the TALDs. So that's a brief overview of the SEAD planning guide. Hopefully you find it useful in planning and conducting SEAD strikes. If you're interested in more general planning with guided weapons, there is the Standoff Weapons Planning Guide, which provides similar information for many of the guided weapon systems within DCS. Feel free to leave any feedback, questions, comments below, and I'll be happy to answer them. As always, there is the donation page on Ko-fi if you feel like throwing me a couple of bucks if you enjoy my content. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.